Imagine a man wandering the dusty roads of a small village. His clothes are torn, his body thin, and in his hands he carries nothing of value, just an old, cracked wooden bowl. It is chipped, weathered, barely holding together, but he clutches it as though it were the most precious treasure in the world. The villagers see him pass by every day. Some feel pity, others laugh, and a few even offer him food or a few coins. Yet he refuses to accept what is given. He shakes his head, pulls the bowl closer to his chest, and moves on, hungry and hollow. His life revolves around this broken bowl, as if letting it go would mean losing himself entirely. Now, pause for a moment. Doesn't this story feel strangely familiar? Maybe not the torn clothes or the dirt roads, but the invisible bowl, that part we all understand. Because in truth, we each carry our own version of that bowl. It might not be wood or clay. For some of us, it's money. For others, it's the need for recognition, the craving for control, or even the comfort of holding onto old wounds. We clutch these things as if they define us, as if without them we would disappear. Yet, like the beggar's bowl, many of the things we cling to are cracked, broken, and incapable of truly nourishing us. Buddhism has always pointed to this tendency as the heart of human suffering. Attachment. The Buddha taught that our pain doesn't come simply from what happens around us. It comes from the way we hold on, the way we refuse to release what no longer serves us. And in that refusal, we create our own chains. Think about it. How often do we tell ourselves, "I'll be happy once I have this, once I achieve that, once this person loves me, once the past is different"? We grip these conditions like a bowl that we believe will finally be filled. Yet it never is. The tighter we hold, the emptier we feel. Why? Because the act of clinging itself blinds us. It narrows our vision until all we can see is the bowl in our hands. We forget the sky above us, the earth beneath us, the countless possibilities all around us. We trade freedom for the illusion of safety, joy for the comfort of familiarity, wisdom for the weight of habit. But here lies the paradox. The very thing we fear losing is often the very thing holding us back. Just as the beggar's broken bowl kept him from receiving real food, our attachments prevent us from receiving the nourishment of peace, love, and clarity. This is not about condemning desire, nor is it about rejecting the world. The Buddha never asked us to run away from life. Instead, he invited us to live it fully without being imprisoned by the things we clutch. Letting go doesn't mean having nothing. It means being free enough to embrace everything. Picture your own life for a moment. What's the bowl you're carrying? Maybe it's a memory you replay endlessly, a relationship you can't release, a dream that has turned into a burden, or even the constant hum of needing more. Whatever it is, notice how it weighs you down. Notice how much energy it takes to hold onto it. And now imagine your hands open, empty, unclenched. Feel the lightness of not carrying the weight anymore. Feel the space that suddenly appears when your grasp relaxes. In that space, something extraordinary can happen. New life, new love, new wisdom can flow in. The story of the beggar is not just an ancient tale. It is the mirror of our own lives. We are the beggar. We are the ones clutching the bowl. And the question before us is simple yet profound. Are we willing to open our hands? This journey begins with seeing clearly the nature of our clinging. And as we walk deeper into the heart of the story, we will come to see how this simple bowl reveals not just a beggar's plight, but the very truth of the human condition. Because sometimes the heaviest burdens we carry are the ones we cannot see. The sun was rising over the village, spilling golden light across the fields and rooftops. Merchants were opening their stalls. Children were running barefoot down the narrow lanes, and the smell of freshly baked bread drifted from the homes. Life was beginning, vibrant and full. And then, like a shadow against the morning, the beggar appeared. His figure was thin, his back slightly bent, and in his hands, as always, he carried that same broken bowl. People had grown used to him. They knew his face, his silence, his unchanging routine. Some offered him food out of kindness, but he rarely accepted. If he did, it was only to place scraps into his bowl, even if the food was too much for the tiny vessel to hold. Often the food spilled out, wasted on the ground, while he held the bowl tighter than ever. Others mocked him. "Look at him," they whispered, starving but unwilling to let go of that piece of junk. Children laughed, pointing at the cracks in his bowl. Yet nothing anyone said could loosen his grip. The bowl, worthless as it was, had become his identity. Without it, he believed he was nothing. And so he wandered day after day through the same streets with the same hunger in his eyes, with the same broken bowl in his hands. But here's the strange part. Every time someone offered him something greater, a warm meal, a coin of silver, even a piece of clothing, he would shake his head. He feared that if he accepted too much, it would overflow, and he would be forced to set the bowl down. And to him, losing the bowl meant losing the only anchor in his fragile existence. It's easy to laugh at him or to feel pity. But if we look carefully, how different are we really? Don't we also clutch our own bowls in fear? That old grudge we refuse to release? That unhealthy relationship we're afraid to walk away from? That dream we outgrew years ago, but still hold onto because we don't know who we'd be without it? We tell ourselves, "At least I have this. At least this bowl is mine." And yet, like the beggar, we starve while holding on. The villagers didn't understand why he clung so tightly, but in his mind the bowl was safety. It was all he knew. And that is the way of attachment. Even when what we cling to causes us suffering, we hold it close, because letting go feels more terrifying than being in pain. As the beggar moved through the village, the world around him shimmered with abundance. Fruit stacked high in baskets, laughter echoing in the marketplace, cool water flowing in the well. But he saw none of it. His world began and ended with the bowl. And here the lesson becomes painfully clear. When our hands are closed, nothing new can enter. When our eyes are fixed only on what we clutch, we fail to see the beauty all around us. The beggar's story is not just about poverty of the body. It is about poverty of the heart. And until something or someone awakens him, he will keep wandering the same streets, chained by the very thing he believes sets him free. The beggar had been wandering for hours, the sun climbing higher and hotter in the sky. Sweat ran down his brow. His stomach growled and his feet ached from the long, dusty journey. Yet still, he gripped the bowl tightly, as if letting go for even a moment would mean losing himself entirely. At the edge of the village, near the foot of a gentle hill, he noticed a figure sitting quietly under a large, ancient tree. A monk, draped in simple robes, eyes closed, breathing slowly, radiating a calmness that seemed almost otherworldly. Villagers often said this monk could see the invisible threads that bound hearts and minds alike. The beggar hesitated, but something inside nudged him forward. Perhaps it was curiosity, perhaps it was exhaustion, or perhaps, deep down, he sensed that this monk might see him, not just the man but the story he carried in his hands. The monk opened his eyes slowly, looking directly at the beggar. There was no judgment, no pity, only gentle awareness. "Why do you carry that bowl so tightly?" the monk asked. His voice was calm, soft, yet it seemed to echo in the very air around them. The beggar's hands tightened. "It is mine," he muttered almost defensively. "Without it, I have nothing. This is all I own." The monk nodded as if expecting this answer. "And yet," he said quietly, "you starve while holding it. You wander lost while clutching what cannot feed you. Tell me, is this bowl truly your friend or your jailer?" The question struck the beggar in a way he hadn't anticipated. He looked down at the cracked wood, the splinters that had pierced his hands over countless days. Had it truly protected him? Had it given him anything beyond fear and emptiness? I don't know," he whispered. The monk smiled gently. "Most of us live this way," he said. "We cling to what is familiar even when it harms us. We hold tight to memories, to possessions, to fears, thinking they are protection. But in truth, they are the chains we mistake for security." For the first time, the beggar noticed the world around him. The gentle sway of the tree, the distant laughter of children, the sunlight reflecting off the water in the village well. A world of abundance flowing freely just beyond the grip of his own hands. Letting go, the monk continued, does not mean losing life. It means opening yourself to it. To see clearly, to feel fully, to receive what has always been waiting for you. The beggar looked down at the bowl once more. It was nothing more than a cracked piece of wood. Yet in that simplicity he began to glimpse something extraordinary. Perhaps the monk was right. Perhaps what he had held onto for so long was not protection at all. And in that moment, a seed of understanding was planted. A question arose in his mind, trembling yet alive. What would it feel like to open my hands, even for just a moment? The monk did not answer. There was no need. Some lessons cannot be taught, they must be discovered, lived. And sometimes it takes only a single gentle question to awaken the mind, to make the heart reconsider what it has been holding too tightly. As the beggar sat there under the shade of the ancient tree, he felt the first stirrings of possibility, a tiny whisper of freedom. And though he did not yet let go, he began to see that the bowl was not his ally. It had been his burden all along. The path ahead was unclear. But for the first time in a long while, he felt a hint of lightness. A hint that maybe, just maybe, the world could be different if he dared to release the weight he had carried for so long. And in that quiet pause, with the monk's serene gaze upon him, the beggar took the first step, not by moving his feet, but by moving his mind. The beggar sat quietly under the ancient tree, the cracked bowl still clutched in his hands, though now a strange lightness lingered in his chest. The monk's words swirled in his mind, opening a space he hadn't known existed, a space where questions could live without immediate answers. "Clinging is the root of suffering," the monk said, as if reading his thoughts aloud. And yet most people do not see it. They hold onto their fears, their memories, their possessions, as if life itself depended on them. But in truth, they are shackles, invisible yet heavy, binding the heart and mind alike. The beggar looked down at the bowl. All his life, he had believed it was his lifeline, his identity, his only security. And yet the monk's words hinted at a truth he had never dared to consider, that the very thing he clung to was the cause of his suffering. Letting go, the monk continued, does not mean giving up. It does not mean becoming nothing. It means freeing yourself to be fully alive, to see what is without the distortion of attachment, to feel what is without fear or resistance. True freedom is born not from possession but from release. The beggar's hands trembled slightly. He had never thought of freedom in this way. For him, freedom had always been about survival, finding food, shelter, safety. But now he began to sense another kind of freedom, a quiet, unwavering peace that did not depend on the bowl, on recognition, on the past or the future. You see, even the Buddha taught that clinging to pleasure, to pain, to life, to death is what binds us to suffering. The monk said softly, "It is not life that hurts us. It is our refusal to let go of what must change, what must pass, what cannot stay." The beggar closed his eyes. For a moment he allowed himself to imagine what it would be like to release the bowl, not forever, not yet, but just for a breath, to place it on the ground, even for a heartbeat, and feel the world move around him without the weight pressing down. A strange thing happened. In that brief moment, he felt the edges of his mind soften. The tight grip of fear loosened just a little. For the first time, he noticed the breeze brushing his skin, the scent of the earth after the morning rain, the warmth of sunlight on his face. Life, it seemed, had always been here, but he had been too busy holding on to notice. The monk's gaze was steady, filled with patience and understanding. "The path of letting go begins with seeing clearly what you clutch," he said, "and seeing it without judgment. Only then can you choose. Will you continue to be bound, or will you begin to taste freedom?" Freedom. The word felt strange, yet tantalizing. Not a distant dream, not a reward for future deeds, but a possibility here now. And the monk, without commanding or urging, had shown him the first glimpse. It was a simple lesson, but one that could change everything. Suffering is not inevitable, it is created, and what is created can be released. What is held can be set down. What is clung to can be offered back to life, like a bird let loose from a cage, finally able to soar. The beggar's eyes opened and he looked at the bowl. It was just a bowl, not a lifeline, not a definition of who he was, just a bowl. And in that realization, something shifted. Not instantly, not magically, but a seed had been planted. A seed that would grow slowly, quietly into understanding. Because the first step toward freedom is always simple. It is awareness. Seeing clearly what binds you and knowing deep in your heart that you have a choice. A choice to hold on or a choice to let go. And as the village continued its morning bustle, the beggar sat there, feeling for the first time that letting go was not loss. It was life itself. As the beggar sat under the shade of the ancient tree, the cracked bowl resting lightly at his feet, he began to see more than the village around him. He started to notice reflections, mirrors of his own life hidden in the lives of others and perhaps hidden within himself. We all carry invisible bowls. Some are gilded with gold, polished and bright, yet empty inside. Others are cracked and worn like the beggar's, yet we clutch them with equal intensity. These bowls are not made of wood or clay. They are made of memory, of fear, of desire. They are made of everything we think defines us. Perhaps your bowl is a relationship you cannot release, even though it brings more pain than joy. Perhaps it is a dream long dead, yet you cling to it because letting it go feels like admitting failure. Perhaps it is a grudge, simmering quietly, taking up space in your heart, while you tell yourself it protects you. We clutch these bowls because we are afraid. Afraid that without them we will be nothing. Afraid that the world will take more than we can bear. Afraid that happiness, once let go, will never return. And yet, like the beggar, we often fail to see the irony. The very thing we clutch, thinking it is protection, is what prevents us from receiving life fully. The grudge keeps us chained. The obsession with the past dims our vision of the present. The fear of loss hardens our hearts and blinds us to what is already waiting. Take a moment and look inward. What is your bowl? What do you clutch so tightly that it limits your freedom, clouds your joy, and blinds you to the abundance around you? Maybe it is pride, insisting you are always right. Maybe it is resentment, replaying old hurts like a broken record. Maybe it is the need for certainty, controlling outcomes that can never be fully controlled. Maybe it is attachment to comfort, to routine, to what feels safe even as it stifles growth. Whatever it is, notice how it shapes your day-to-day life. How often does it pull at your mind? How often does it weigh your spirit? How often does it prevent your hands from opening to receive new blessings, new experiences, new love? And here is the lesson. Just as the beggar's cracked bowl kept him from real nourishment, our own invisible bowls keep us from fully living. They are the subtle chains we carry, often unnoticed, often accepted as inevitable. But the story of the beggar also carries hope, because awareness is the first step. Seeing clearly what binds you opens the door to change. It allows you to ask yourself the same question the monk asked the beggar: is this bowl my friend or my jailer? And if you dare to answer honestly, you may begin to glimpse the possibility of letting go, not recklessly, not with fear, but with the courage to reclaim your life. The world is full of abundance, light, and possibility, but it cannot reach you while your hands are tightly closed. The bowls we carry may feel like protection, but in truth, they are the obstacles between us and the life waiting to flow in. Every person you meet carries a bowl too. Some are heavy with sorrow, some glitter with desire. Some, like the beggar, clutch their burdens so tightly that they cannot even notice the sunlight. And in this reflection, we realize that the beggar is not just a man under a tree. He is all of us, wandering through life, sometimes starving for what we already have, blinded by what we refuse to release. So ask yourself, gently but honestly, what is in your hands right now? What have you been holding onto, believing it is essential, when in truth it may be holding you back? Because the moment you begin to see it clearly, a new path appears. A path where your hands can open, where your heart can expand, and where the world can finally reach you, not as a distant dream, but as a living reality. And as the beggar sits under the tree, noticing for the first time the world beyond his bowl, we begin to understand that the journey of letting go is not a single act. It is a process, a deep, unfolding awakening, and it is waiting for all of us to take the first step. The beggar had begun to notice the world beyond his bowl, the light spilling over the village, the laughter of children, the fragrance of earth after morning rain. Yet, even as he glimpsed this possibility, the weight of his possession, the bowl, still tugged at him. Its cracks dug into his palms, its emptiness echoed in his stomach, yet he could not release it. This is the paradox of attachment. What we clutch tightly, thinking it is protection, often becomes our heaviest burden. The bowl that was supposed to feed him had starved him for years. The possession that he believed gave him identity had chained him to fear, pain, and limitation. In life, this is rarely about a literal bowl. Our attachments are invisible yet no less real. They can take the form of money, status, relationships, habits, or even ideas. We carry them in our minds, in our hearts, in the very energy of our being. And like the beggar, we often fail to see the suffering they create. Holding on feels safe. Letting go feels dangerous. But the irony is that the more we cling, the less free we become. Each possession, each expectation, each memory we refuse to release adds weight to our spirit. It constricts our hearts, clouds our minds, and drains the joy from the present moment. Think about it. How many times have we clutched grudges that no longer serve us, replayed past mistakes, or hoarded possessions long past their usefulness? How often do we cling to relationships, not because they nourish us, but because the thought of losing them terrifies us? How often do we pursue status or wealth, believing they will finally bring happiness, only to discover they bring anxiety instead. Buddhism teaches that all of this is suffering born from attachment. The Buddha called it tanha, craving, a thirst that can never be fully quenched. And yet, most of us spend entire lifetimes chasing, holding, and guarding what ultimately binds us. The beggar's bowl is a mirror for all of us. Every chipped edge, every worn spot, tells the story of what happens when we cling to the impermanent. Every day we carry our own bowls, visible or invisible, unaware of how much energy we devote to keeping them safe, how much life we miss while our hands remain closed. And the pain of holding on is not just in the mind. It reaches into the body, tightening muscles, quickening the heart, clouding thought, and exhausting the spirit. Like the beggar, we move through life burdened, weighed down by what we cannot release, missing the nourishment that could flow freely if only we opened our hands. But here lies the lesson. Recognition of the weight is the first step toward liberation. Seeing clearly how possession and clinging create suffering allows us to begin loosening our grip. Not recklessly, not with fear, but gently, with awareness. Imagine placing the bowl on the ground, even for a moment, and feeling the relief of its absence. Imagine noticing how your body feels lighter, how your mind breathes more freely, how your heart begins to soften. Imagine opening your hands to life, even if only for a few seconds, and sensing the abundance you've been missing. The beggar's story reminds us that holding on too tightly is not strength. It is a subtle, silent form of imprisonment. True strength lies in knowing when to release, when to trust life, and when to allow ourselves the freedom to receive more than we ever imagined. Because the world does not wait for our clinging. The breeze will continue to blow. The sun will continue to rise. Life will continue to offer its gifts. But our ability to accept them depends entirely on whether we are willing to put down the weight we carry. And so, as the beggar sits under the tree, feeling the pressure of the cracked bowl in his hands, he begins to understand something essential. The pain of holding on is not punishment, it is a teacher. Every ache, every moment of tension is life showing him the cost of attachment. And in that realization lies the possibility of change, of freedom, of awakening. The beggar sat quietly, the cracked bowl resting lightly at his feet, feeling both the weight he had carried for so long and the first flickers of freedom that came with even noticing it. The monk's words still lingered in his mind, whispering that letting go was not a loss, but a form of life reclaimed. Yet understanding is never the same as action. To release, truly release, requires courage, a courage that feels fragile and enormous at the same time. Letting go is not about abandoning life or pretending that suffering does not exist. It is not about giving up on dreams or denying love or ignoring responsibilities. It is about choosing freedom over fear, clarity over confusion, and openness over contraction. It is about looking at the bowl in your hands and realizing, I can survive, I can thrive, I can live even without this. For the beggar, the courage to release meant imagining placing the bowl on the ground, letting it sit there for just a moment and breathing without the burden pressing into his palms. For us, it might mean forgiving someone who has hurt us, even when the memory still stings. It might mean stepping away from a job or relationship that no longer serves us. It might mean surrendering a dream that has become a cage rather than a path. Courage, in the Buddhist sense, is the willingness to confront reality as it is, to see clearly what we hold onto, and to meet it with open eyes and an open heart, to feel the fear, the uncertainty, the discomfort, and still move forward. The monk spoke softly, almost to himself, yet the words reached the beggar's ears like a song. You do not need to carry everything. You do not need to be defined by what you hold. To open your hands, even for a moment, is to invite life itself in. The beggar took a deep breath. He imagined the bowl in the dirt, unclaimed, and noticed a subtle shift within him. His shoulders eased, the tension in his hands loosened, and in that fleeting moment he realized something profound. Letting go does not erase you. It does not make you weak, it makes you whole. And here is the beauty of courage. It begins with a single step, a single choice, a single breath. One moment of surrender opens the door to another. One act of trust in life leads to another. Like ripples in a pond, the release spreads outward, touching every corner of the mind, every chamber of the heart. In our own lives, we can practice this courage every day, by noticing when we cling too tightly, by questioning the value of what we hold, by taking small actions to release, letting a grudge go, forgiving ourselves, stepping back from unnecessary worry. We begin to open the space for joy, for clarity, for presence. The beggar's eyes fell on the cracked bowl again. It was no longer merely a burden. It had become a teacher. Each chip, each splinter, each worn edge showed him exactly where his courage would be needed, and he began to understand that letting go was not a single dramatic event. It was a practice, a lifetime of small, brave choices. The monk rose slowly, placing a hand on the beggar's shoulder with quiet reassurance. "The world will not force you to release," he said. "You must choose it, and each choice will teach you more about freedom than any possession ever could." In that gentle guidance, the beggar felt the first true stirrings of liberation. Not a sudden miracle, not an instant escape, but a soft awakening. He was learning that courage and letting go are inseparable, that to release is not to abandon but to reclaim life itself. And as he sat there, feeling the light beginning to filter through the weight, he realized something remarkable. He was ready to let life in, ready to place the bowl down, ready for the first time to truly receive. Because courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move through fear, to step into the unknown, to trust that letting go will not destroy you but set you free. The beggar had taken his first tentative steps toward release. The cracked bowl no longer gripped his hands with the same unyielding force. A subtle lightness lingered in his chest, a quiet sense that life might hold something beyond hunger, beyond fear, beyond the familiar weight of possession. And in that lightness, he began to see the first gifts of empty hands. When we release, even a little, the world begins to flow toward us in ways we could not have imagined. Life has been waiting patiently like a river behind a dam, and the moment we loosen our grip, abundance rushes in. For the beggar, the first gift was awareness. He noticed the colors of the village anew, the green of the field stretching into the horizon, the sparkle of sunlight on the river, the laughter of children, pure and unburdened. These were not things he had never seen. They had always been there. But his hands had been closed, his mind fixed, and he had not truly received them. The second gift was freedom. Freedom is subtle at first. It is not fireworks or grand revelation. It is the soft exhalation of the chest, the quiet letting go of tension in the shoulders, the sense that the world is no longer pressing against you. It is the understanding that you are not your possessions, not your fears, not your past. You are life itself, present, breathing, capable of receiving without resistance. And the third gift, perhaps the most profound, was openness. The beggar realized that when his hands were empty, they could receive more than he had ever imagined. Not just food, not just coins, not just clothing, but warmth, kindness, connection, understanding, joy. His hands could now cup the gifts life had been offering all along, gifts he had been blind to while clutching the bowl so tightly. We too carry invisible bowls. We cling to past hurts, to what we think we need, to what we think defines us. And in doing so, we close ourselves off from the richness already flowing around us. But the moment we begin to release, even a little, the possibilities expand. Every breath becomes sweeter, every encounter more meaningful, every moment more alive. The monk had once said, "The world cannot give you what you cannot receive. Open your hands and the universe will pour in what has always been waiting." And now the beggar could feel it, the world offering him its gifts, not because he had earned them, not because he deserved them, but simply because he had made space, because he had chosen release, because he had trusted life enough to let go. This is the paradox of richness. It is not found in accumulation but in emptiness, not in clinging but in letting go, not in the possession of things but in the capacity to receive fully, freely, and gratefully. In that moment, the beggar felt a fullness unlike anything he had known. His empty hands were not a sign of lack, they were a vessel, open, ready, and alive. The cracked bowl no longer defined him. He was no longer a prisoner of his own attachment. He was free to live, to receive, to rejoice, to be. And as he rose from the shade of the ancient tree, feeling the wind on his face, the warmth of the sun, the quiet hum of life moving all around him, he understood a profound truth. The richness of life cannot be grasped. It can only be received, and to receive it, we must let go. This is the lesson of empty hands. When we release, we do not lose. We gain everything. The world opens up, overflowing with gifts that have always been here, patiently waiting for the moment we are ready to receive them. And in that readiness, in that quiet surrender, life becomes not something to chase, not something to hoard, but something to live fully, richly, and without fear. The beggar's cracked bowl had taught him much about the nature of attachment, about the weight we carry and the freedom that comes from letting go. Yet his story is not confined to a dusty village or to a single life long ago. It stretches into the modern world, into our cities, our homes, our minds. Today, the beggars are all around us, and often we are the beggars. We carry invisible bowls shaped by technology, ambition, social comparison, and endless distraction. Our hands are clenched around screens that buzz and glow, around social media likes, around the pursuit of status and wealth, around the illusion that these things will finally make us complete. We scroll endlessly, check notifications compulsively, and chase achievements that promise validation but rarely satisfy. We hoard memories, grudges, regrets, and fears, believing that these mental possessions protect us from being unworthy, unseen, or unloved. And yet, like the beggar, we starve, spiritually, emotionally, even physically, because our hands are closed. The modern beggar holds a different kind of bowl, one invisible to the eye but heavy on the heart. It is the fear of missing out. It is the obsession with image and recognition. It is the constant more that tells us happiness is always somewhere else, waiting just beyond our grasp. And still, the lesson remains the same. Letting go opens the door to life. Open your hands and suddenly the noise quiets. Let go of comparison and joy becomes possible. Release your grip on the past and the present blooms. Surrender the fear of losing control and freedom enters. The beggar's cracked bowl mirrors our own modern attachments. Each compulsive scroll, each clutched desire, each unrelenting expectation is a splinter digging into our palms, silently sapping our energy and narrowing our vision. The world offers so much abundance, but it cannot flow into hands that remain closed. Notice how many of us are walking through life like the beggar once did, fixated on the bowl in our hands, blind to the sunlight, the breeze, the laughter, the simple, precious moments that are already here. How often do we ignore what truly matters while chasing illusions that promise happiness but deliver only more craving? And yet, there is hope. The monk's words still echo. To open your hands is to invite life in. We do not need to travel to a distant village or live in poverty to learn this lesson. We only need awareness, courage, and willingness to release what no longer serves us. Every day offers a choice: to cling or to open, to tighten or to surrender, to remain bound or to begin walking freely. Every moment is an opportunity to set down the invisible bowls we carry, the digital, the emotional, the psychological, and allow life to flow unimpeded. The modern beggar's story is not a warning. It is a mirror, reflecting back the reality of our own minds. And when we see it clearly, we realize that freedom, joy, and abundance have never been somewhere else. They have always been waiting patiently for the moment we are ready to release, to let go, to receive. The beggar rises, his hands empty, yet full in a way that transcends possessions. The lesson is ours as well. In a world filled with noise, distraction, and unrelenting pressure to acquire, the most profound act we can perform is simple: open our hands, let go, and live. Because only then can we truly taste the richness of life that has always been here, waiting for us to claim it, not with grasping, but with presence, awareness, and an open heart. The beggar now stands beneath the ancient tree, no longer clutching the cracked bowl that had defined so many years of his life. His hands are empty, yet his chest feels full in a way he has never known. The weight has lifted, but something far greater has taken its place: clarity, peace, and the profound richness of life itself. Empty hands, full heart. This is the ultimate lesson of the story, the essence of what the Buddha taught. Suffering arises not from life itself, but from clinging, and liberation, freedom, and joy are not found in possession or grasping, but in release. The beggar's journey mirrors our own. Each of us carries invisible bowls, attachments, fears, expectations that weigh us down. Yet just as he learned, we are not prisoners. We have the capacity to open our hands, to breathe, and to receive life fully. When we let go even a little, the world begins to move differently around us. Colors seem brighter, moments feel deeper, and the simple act of being alive becomes extraordinary. Letting go does not mean loss. It means freedom. It means love without conditions. It means experiencing the present fully and without obstruction. The beggar looks at the village, the fields, the people he once ignored. He notices the gifts that have always been there: the warmth of sunlight, the laughter of children, the gentle whisper of wind through leaves. These are the treasures that cannot be hoarded, only received. And now he understands something essential. Life's richness is never in what we hold, but in our capacity to let life hold us. To trust, even for a moment, that what is meant for us will come, not through grasping, but through openness, awareness, and presence. Empty hands, full heart. A simple phrase, yet it contains the deepest truth. It tells us that freedom is available here, now, not in some distant place, not after we achieve, acquire, or control, but in the willingness to release, to surrender, to live. As the beggar walks through the village, lightness in every step, he is no longer defined by what he carries. He is defined by life itself, flowing through him, vibrant, abundant, and infinite. And we, watching his journey unfold, are invited to do the same. To release our invisible bowls, to open our hands, to let go. Because when we do, we discover that life has been waiting for us all along, full of gifts, full of beauty, full of love. And in that moment, with empty hands and a full heart, we finally understand what it means to be truly free. If this story of the beggar and the lesson of letting go resonated with you, take a moment to reflect on your own invisible bowls, what you hold and what you might release. Here at Zen Buddhism Wisdom, we explore timeless teachings and simple practices to help open your hands, calm your mind, and live with a full heart. If you'd like to continue this journey with us, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss our weekly explorations into mindfulness, wisdom, and the art of living freely. And remember, true freedom is not found in holding on. It is found in letting go. Share this video with someone who might need a gentle reminder today, and let's open our hands together, one moment at a time.